A Labrador takes care of an abandoned kitten, but when they grow up, something unbelievable happens. The Labrador nursed the abandoned kittens back to health, but when they were fully grown, something incredible happened. The sun streamed through the kitchen window, painting golden stripes across the worn wooden floor. Buddy, a golden retriever puppy with fur the color of honey, chased the dancing light, his tail wagging furiously. He nipped at the dust motes swirling in the sunbeams, his playful barks echoing through the cozy farmhouse. His humans, the Millers, were busy with their morning routines. John, with his calloused hands and kind eyes, was out in the barn tending to the horses. Sarah, her laughter as warm as the freshly baked bread she pulled from the oven, bustled around the kitchen. And little Lily, with her bright blue eyes and infectious giggle, toddled after Buddy, her tiny hands reaching for his soft fur. Buddy adored his family. He loved the way John's rough hands scratched behind his ears, the way Sarah's gentle voice soothed him, and the way Lily's chubby arms wrapped around his neck in a hug. He loved the smells of the farm, the hay in the barn, the freshly tilled earth in the fields, and the sweet scent of Sarah's apple pies cooling on the windowsill. Life on the Miller farm was a constant adventure for Buddy. He chased butterflies in the meadow, splashed in the cool waters of the creek, and helped John herd the sheep, his barks echoing across the rolling hills. In the evenings, he curled up at the foot of Lily's bed, his warm body a comforting presence as she drifted off to sleep. Buddy's days were filled with joy, love, and the simple pleasures of life on the farm. He knew nothing but the warmth of his family's love and the security of his home. He was a happy dog, his heart overflowing with the boundless energy and enthusiasm of youth. But even in this idyllic world, shadows sometimes lurked. Buddy noticed the worried lines etched on John's forehead, the hushed conversations between his humans late at night, and the way Sarah's laughter seemed a little less carefree these days. He didn't understand the cause of their concern, but he sensed a change in the air, a subtle shift in the familiar rhythm of their lives. One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields, a storm brewed on the horizon. The wind howled, rattling the windows of the farmhouse, and thunder rumbled in the distance. Buddy, nestled beside Lily on the rug in front of the fireplace, felt a shiver run down his spine. He looked up at his humans, seeking reassurance in their familiar faces, but their eyes were filled with a fear he had never seen before. As the storm raged outside, a different kind of storm was brewing within the walls of the Miller farmhouse, a storm that would forever change Buddy's life. The storm passed, leaving behind an eerie calm, but the tension within the farmhouse remained. Buddy, with his heightened senses, felt the shift in his humans' demeanor. Their laughter was muted, their smiles strained. John spent long hours in the fields, his brow furrowed in worry. Sarah moved through the house with a quiet sadness, her eyes often red-rimmed. Even Lily, his beloved playmate, seemed subdued, her giggles replaced by a solemn silence. Buddy tried his best to cheer them up. He brought them his favorite toys, nudging them with his nose and wagging his tail with extra vigor. He showered them with affectionate licks and attempted to engage them in playful chases around the house. But their responses were lackluster, their attention distant. One day, Buddy overheard a conversation between John and Sarah. They were speaking in hushed tones, their voices heavy with worry. He couldn't understand the words, but he sensed the gravity of their discussion. He heard words like hospital, surgery, and not sure. A cold fear gripped his heart. The next morning, John left the farm early, his face etched with worry. Sarah stayed behind, her eyes swollen from crying. She hugged Lily tightly, whispering words of comfort into her hair. Buddy watched, his tail tucked between his legs, a deep sense of foreboding settling over him. As the days turned into weeks, the atmosphere in the farmhouse grew heavier. Buddy's playful antics were met with tired smiles and absent-minded pats. He spent most of his days curled up by the fireplace, his head resting on his paws, watching the flames dance and listening to the mournful ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. He missed the carefree days of chasing butterflies and playing fetch with Lily. He missed the warmth of John's hand ruffling his fur and the sound of Sarah's laughter filling the house. He missed the feeling of belonging, of being an integral part of their happy family. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of fiery orange and purple, a car pulled up the driveway. Buddy's ears perked up, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. He watched as John emerged from the car, his shoulders slumped, his face etched with a grief that Buddy had never witnessed before. Sarah rushed out to meet him, her hands flying to her mouth as she let out a choked sob. Lily followed, her small face crumpled in confusion and fear. Buddy, his instincts screaming at him, knew that something terrible had happened. He whined softly, his tail tucked between his legs, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. The shadows had deepened, casting a pall over the once joyful farmhouse. Buddy's world, once filled with love and laughter, was about to be shattered. The following days were a blur of hushed whispers, tearful phone calls, and the constant coming and going of somber-faced adults. Buddy, confused and anxious, was kept mostly confined to the house. He watched from the window as John drove away with Lily, her small face pressed against the glass, her eyes wide with fear. Sarah remained, her movements slow and deliberate, her face pale and drawn. Buddy tried to stay close to her, seeking comfort in her presence. He rested his head on her lap, whining softly, hoping to offer some solace. But Sarah seemed lost in her own world of grief, her hand absently stroking his fur, her eyes staring blankly into the distance. One afternoon, a strange car pulled up the driveway. Two men in dark suits emerged, their faces grim. Buddy watched from the window as they approached Sarah, their voices low and serious. Sarah listened, her body trembling, her hands clasped tightly together. Then she let out a wail, a sound of pure anguish that tore through Buddy's heart. He barked, a desperate plea for an explanation, for some reassurance. But no one paid him any attention. The men led Sarah to their car, her shoulders slumped, her steps heavy. Buddy watched as they drove away, leaving him alone in the silent house. He whined and scratched at the door, desperate to follow them, to be with his humans. But the door remained closed, a barrier between him and the family he loved. He paced restlessly, his anxiety growing with each passing hour. As darkness fell, a storm began to brew. The wind howled, rattling the windows, and rain lashed against the walls of the farmhouse. Buddy, terrified and alone, huddled in the corner of the living room, his body trembling. Suddenly, a blinding flash of lightning illuminated the sky, followed by a deafening clap of thunder. The lights in the house flickered and died, plunging Buddy into darkness. He whimpered, his heart pounding in his chest. Then he heard it, a crash, a screech of tires, and the sickening thud of metal against metal. He ran to the window, his fur on end, his senses overwhelmed by the chaos outside. Through the pouring rain, he saw the mangled wreckage of a car lying on its side in the ditch. He recognized the car. It was John's. He barked frantically, his instincts urging him to help, to reach his family. He clawed at the door, desperate to get out, but it was no use. He was trapped, a helpless witness to the tragedy unfolding outside. He watched in horror as emergency vehicles arrived, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow on the scene. He saw paramedics rushing towards the wreckage, their faces grim. He saw them carrying a stretcher, a small figure lying motionless upon it. He recognized the bright yellow raincoat. It was Lily. Buddy howled, a long, mournful sound that echoed through the empty house. He knew, with a certainty that tore through his soul, that his world had been shattered. His family, his humans, were gone. He was alone, abandoned, lost in a world that no longer made sense. Days blurred into weeks. The farmhouse remained empty, a silent testament to the life that had been. Buddy, driven by hunger and a desperate longing for his family, finally managed to escape the confines of the house. He wandered the surrounding fields, his once shiny coat matted and dull, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. The world outside the farm was a harsh and unforgiving place. Buddy, accustomed to the warmth and safety of his home, was ill-prepared for the challenges he faced. He scavenged for scraps of food, his stomach constantly gnawing with hunger. He dodged cars on the busy roads, his heart pounding with fear. He encountered other dogs, some friendly, some hostile, and learned to navigate the complex social hierarchy of the canine world. He slept in barns, under porches, and in the hollow of an old oak tree, his nights filled with the sounds of the forest, the rustling of leaves, the hooting of owls, and the distant howling of coyotes. He longed for the comfort of his soft bed, the warmth of Lily's small body curled up beside him. But even in his despair, Buddy never gave up hope. He clung to the memories of his family, their love a beacon guiding him through the darkness. He searched for them everywhere he went, his keen sense of smell leading him down country roads, through bustling towns, and into unfamiliar neighborhoods. He encountered humans, some kind, some indifferent, some cruel. He learned to distinguish between those who offered a kind word or a scrap of food and those who shooed him away with harsh words and threatening gestures. He learned to trust his instincts, to avoid danger, and to rely on his own resourcefulness. One cold winter night, as snow fell silently, blanketing the landscape in white, Buddy found himself huddled under a bridge, shivering and hungry. He had been wandering for days, his paws sore, his body weary. He closed his eyes, picturing the warmth of the fireplace, the smell of Sarah's cooking, the sound of Lily's laughter. Suddenly, he heard a noise, a soft whimper, a rustling in the bushes nearby. He opened his eyes and saw a small, shivering figure emerge from the shadows. It was a kitten, no more than a few weeks old, its fur matted and dirty, its eyes wide with fear. Buddy, despite his own hunger and exhaustion, felt a surge of compassion for the tiny creature. He moved closer, nudging the kitten gently with his nose. The kitten, hesitant at first, eventually snuggled against Buddy's warm fur, seeking shelter from the cold. That night, under the bridge, two lost souls found solace in each other's company. Buddy, the once pampered house dog, had become a protector, a guardian of the vulnerable. He had found a purpose, a reason to keep going, in the midst of his own grief and loneliness. The kitten, whom Buddy instinctively named Hope, became his companion, his reason for carrying on. He shared his meager scraps with her, kept her warm through the cold nights, and protected her from the dangers of their harsh environment. Hope, in return, brought a spark of joy back into Buddy's life. Her playful antics and affectionate purrs reminded him of the simple pleasures he had lost. One day, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, was tending to her roses. She noticed the two bedraggled creatures and her heart went out to them. "Oh, you poor things," she murmured, her voice soft and soothing. She beckoned them closer, offering a bowl of warm milk and some leftover chicken. Buddy, wary at first, cautiously approached, his tail tucked between his legs. But the woman's gentle touch and kind words reassured him. He lapped up the milk gratefully, feeling a warmth spread through his weary body. The woman, Mrs. Peterson, was a widow who lived alone. Her children were grown and had families of their own, leaving her with an empty nest and a yearning for companionship. She saw something special in Buddy's sad eyes, a resilience and a loyalty that touched her heart. She decided to take him in, offering him a warm bed, regular meals, and a safe haven. Buddy, hesitant at first, slowly began to trust Mrs. Peterson. He appreciated her gentle touch, her soft voice, and the way she spoke to him as if he understood every word. He loved the cozy warmth of her home, the soft blankets on his bed, and the delicious smells wafting from her kitchen. He especially loved the way she looked at him, her eyes filled with a warmth that reminded him of his lost family. Hope, too, thrived under Mrs. Peterson's care. She blossomed into a playful and affectionate cat, her purrs filling the house with a comforting melody. Buddy and Hope became inseparable companions, their bond strengthened by their shared experiences and their newfound love for Mrs. Peterson. Life with Mrs. Peterson was a far cry from the carefree days on the farm, but it was a life filled with kindness, compassion, and a sense of belonging. Buddy, though still carrying the scars of his past, began to heal, his heart slowly opening to the possibility of love and happiness once again. He had found a new home, a new family, and a new purpose in life. Spring arrived, bringing with it a sense of renewal and hope. The garden around Mrs. Peterson's house burst into life, a riot of colors and scents. Buddy, his coat regaining its golden sheen, spent his days exploring the garden, chasing butterflies, and basking in the warm sunshine. Hope, sleek and playful, darted amongst the flowers, her lithe body a blur of black and white. Mrs. Peterson, with her green thumb and gentle touch, nurtured her plants with loving care. Buddy watched her, fascinated by her connection to the earth, her ability to coax life from the soil. He often sat beside her as she worked, his head resting on her lap, his eyes following her every move. He loved the routine of their days, the morning walks in the park, the afternoons spent in the garden, the evenings curled up by the fireplace with a good book and a purring cat. He loved the way Mrs. Peterson talked to him, sharing her thoughts and feelings, her voice a soothing balm to his wounded spirit. He learned to understand her commands, to fetch her slippers, to guard the house at night, and to comfort her when she felt lonely. He became her confidant, her furry companion, her loyal protector. One day, Mrs. Peterson received a letter from her daughter, inviting her to visit for a few weeks. Buddy, sensing her excitement, wagged his tail and barked encouragingly. He knew how much she missed her family, how much she longed for their company. But when the day of her departure arrived, a wave of anxiety washed over him. He watched as she packed her suitcase, his tail drooping, his eyes filled with apprehension. He didn't want to be left alone again, to face the silence and emptiness of the house without her. Mrs. Peterson, sensing his distress, knelt down and hugged him tightly. "Don't worry, Buddy," she whispered, her voice filled with reassurance. "I'll be back soon, and my neighbor, Mr. Johnson, will come by every day to feed you and Hope. You'll be fine." Buddy licked her face, his tail giving a tentative wag. He trusted Mrs. Peterson, but the fear of abandonment lingered, a deep-seated wound that refused to fully heal. Mr. Johnson, a gruff but kind-hearted man, proved to be a reliable caretaker. He brought food and water, cleaned the litter box, and even spent a few minutes each day talking to Buddy and Hope. But his presence couldn't fill the void left by Mrs. Peterson. Buddy missed her gentle touch, her soft voice, her comforting presence. He missed the routine of their days, the shared meals, the evening cuddles by the fireplace. He missed the feeling of belonging, of being loved and needed. He spent most of his days by the window, watching the world go by. His ears perked for the sound of Mrs. Peterson's car. He longed for her return, for the warmth of her embrace, for the reassurance that he was not alone. When she finally arrived, her arms laden with gifts and her face beaming with joy, Buddy's heart leaped with joy. He barked excitedly, jumping and spinning in circles, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. Mrs. Peterson laughed, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "Oh, Buddy," she exclaimed, kneeling down to hug him tightly. "I missed you so much." Buddy licked her face, his tail wagging furiously. He was home, in the arms of the woman who had given him a second chance at happiness. He had found his place, his purpose, his family. He was no longer just a lost and lonely dog. He was Buddy, Mrs. Peterson's beloved companion, her furry guardian angel. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Buddy, now fully integrated into Mrs. Peterson's life, was a constant source of comfort and joy. He accompanied her on her daily walks, his keen senses alert to any potential dangers. He greeted visitors with a friendly wag of his tail, his protective instincts tempered by his gentle nature. He was a fixture in the community, known for his loyalty to Mrs. Peterson and his gentle demeanor with children and other animals. One sunny afternoon, as they strolled through the park, Buddy noticed a familiar scent. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it triggered a deep-seated memory, a primal recognition. He stopped in his tracks, his nose twitching, his body tense. Mrs. Peterson, sensing his agitation, followed his gaze. "What is it, Buddy?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. Buddy whined softly, his eyes fixed on a figure approaching in the distance. It was a young woman, her hair the color of sunshine, her eyes a familiar shade of blue. As she drew closer, Buddy's heart pounded in his chest. He recognized her. It was Lily, his beloved playmate, all grown up. Lily, too, noticed the golden retriever, his fur gleaming in the sunlight. She stopped, her eyes widening in surprise. "Buddy?" she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Buddy couldn't contain himself any longer. He barked, a joyous sound filled with relief and disbelief. He pulled on his leash, straining to reach her, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. Lily rushed towards him, her arms outstretched. "Buddy, it's really you," she exclaimed, her voice choked with tears. She knelt down, embracing him tightly, burying her face in his fur. Buddy licked her face, his tail wagging furiously, his heart overflowing with joy. He had found her, his beloved Lily, the little girl he thought he had lost forever. Lily explained that she had been living with her aunt after the accident, unaware that Buddy had survived. Peterson watched the reunion with tears in her eyes. She understood the depth of the bond between Buddy and Lily, the unbreakable connection forged in their shared past. She knew that Buddy belonged with Lily, that he had found his way back to his original family. But a part of her ached with the thought of losing him. He had become such an integral part of her life, her constant companion, her furry confidant. She couldn't imagine her days without his presence, his loyalty, his unconditional love. As Lily and Buddy played in the park, their laughter echoing through the trees, Mrs. Peterson wrestled with her emotions. She knew she had to do what was best for Buddy, even if it meant letting him go. The next few days were filled with a mixture of joy and sadness. Lily visited every day, spending hours playing with Buddy, reminiscing about their shared past, and catching up on the years they had lost. Buddy, reveling in her attention, was torn between his love for Lily and his loyalty to Mrs. Peterson. Mrs. Peterson, true to her kind nature, encouraged their bond. She saw the spark of joy in Buddy's eyes, the way his tail wagged with an extra vigor when Lily was around. She knew that he belonged with his original family, that it was where his heart truly lay. One evening, as Lily was preparing to leave, Mrs. Peterson called her aside. "Lily," she said, her voice soft but firm, "I think it's time for Buddy to come home with you." Lily's eyes widened in surprise. "But Mrs. Peterson," she stammered, "I couldn't possibly take him from you. He's your dog now." Mrs. Peterson smiled gently. "He's always been your dog, Lily. I was just taking care of him until you found each other again. He belongs with you, with his family." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. "Thank you, Mrs. Peterson," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for everything you've done for him." The farewell was bittersweet. Buddy, sensing the shift in dynamics, whined softly, nuzzling Mrs. Peterson's hand. He licked her face, his eyes filled with gratitude and love. He would never forget her kindness, her compassion, the second chance she had given him. He walked alongside Lily as she led him towards her car, his tail wagging, his heart filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. He was going home, to a place he barely remembered, to a family that had grown and changed in his absence. Lily's home was a small apartment in the town center, a far cry from the sprawling farmhouse of his childhood. But it was filled with warmth and love, with the familiar scent of Lily and the comforting sounds of human voices. He was introduced to Lily's husband, Mark, a kind and gentle man who welcomed him with open arms. He met their two young children, Emily and Ethan, who squealed with delight at the sight of their new furry friend. Buddy quickly adapted to his new surroundings. He explored the apartment, claimed a cozy spot on the rug by the sofa, and learned the routine of his new family. He played fetch with Emily and Ethan in the nearby park, went for walks with Lily and Mark, and enjoyed the hustle and bustle of town life. He was no longer the carefree farm dog, chasing butterflies and herding sheep. He was a city dog now, navigating busy sidewalks, greeting friendly strangers, and enjoying the comforts of a loving home. He cherished his new family, their love filling the void left by his lost humans. He was their protector, their confidant, their furry companion. He was Buddy, the dog who had found his way back home, the dog who had embraced a new family, a new life, a new beginning. Years passed, seasons changed, and life in the bustling town continued its course. Buddy, now a senior dog with a muzzle sprinkled with gray, had settled comfortably into his role as a beloved member of the Miller family. He was no longer the energetic puppy who chased butterflies and herded sheep, but his spirit remained youthful, his love for his family unwavering. He had witnessed the growth of Emily and Ethan, from toddlers to teenagers, sharing in their joys and comforting them through their childhood trials. He had been a constant presence in their lives, a furry confidant, a loyal protector, a source of unconditional love. He had also seen changes in Lily and Mark. The lines on their faces had deepened, their hair streaked with silver, but their love for each other and their children remained strong, a testament to the enduring power of family. Buddy, despite his advancing age, remained an active participant in their lives. He accompanied them on their daily walks, his pace slower now, his gait a bit stiff, but his enthusiasm undiminished. He greeted visitors with a gentle wag of his tail, his bark a soft rumble compared to the boisterous barks of his youth. He had become a fixture in the community, a familiar sight on the streets, his presence a source of comfort and joy to those who knew him. He was the dog who had overcome adversity, the dog who had found his way back to his family, the dog who embodied loyalty, resilience, and unconditional love. One day, Lily brought home a new addition to the family, a small, abandoned kitten, its fur matted and dirty, its eyes wide with fear. Buddy, his heart filled with compassion, recognized a kindred spirit in the tiny creature. He approached cautiously, his old bones creaking, his tail giving a gentle wag. The kitten, hesitant at first, eventually snuggled against Buddy's warm fur, seeking shelter and comfort. Buddy, remembering his own experiences as a lost and lonely dog, embraced the kitten with a gentle warmth, his heart swelling with a protective instinct. He became a mentor to the kitten, teaching it the ways of the world, the rules of the house, and the importance of family. He shared his food, his bed, and his love, guiding the kitten through its early days, just as Hope had guided him years ago. Buddy, the once lost and lonely dog, had become a beacon of hope, a symbol of resilience, a testament to the enduring power of love and compassion. He had found his purpose, not just as a beloved pet, but as a guardian, a teacher, a source of comfort and strength to those in need. He had come full circle, from a carefree farm dog to a lost and lonely wanderer, to a cherished member of a loving family, and finally, to a wise and compassionate elder, sharing his wisdom and love with a new generation. He was Buddy, the dog who had lived a life filled with adventure, loss, and love, a life that had touched the hearts of many and left an indelible mark on the world. Time, the relentless tide, continued its ceaseless flow. The once vibrant hues of summer faded into the mellow tones of autumn, the leaves on the trees transforming into a fiery tapestry of gold and crimson. Buddy, his once golden fur now a canvas of white and silver, felt the weight of his years. His steps were slower, his naps longer, his senses dulled by the passage of time. Yet his spirit remained strong, his love for his family undimmed. He still greeted each morning with a gentle wag of his tail, his eyes sparkling with affection, as he watched his beloved humans go about their daily routines. He still found joy in the simple pleasures, a warm patch of sunlight, a gentle scratch behind the ears, the comforting presence of his family. He watched with pride as Emily and Ethan blossomed into adulthood, their childhood laughter replaced by thoughtful conversations and ambitious dreams. He saw them leave the nest, pursuing their own paths in the world, carrying with them the lessons of love and compassion he had silently imparted. He witnessed the deepening bond between Lily and Mark, their love weathered by time and strengthened by shared experiences. He saw the lines on their faces etched not with worry, but with the wisdom and contentment of a life well lived. He felt the gentle touch of Lily's hand, her voice soft and soothing as she spoke to him, her words filled with love and gratitude. He saw the tears in her eyes, not tears of sadness, but tears of appreciation for the unwavering companionship he had offered throughout the years. One crisp winter morning, as the first snowflakes of the season fell gently upon the earth, Buddy felt a weariness he had never known before. He curled up on his favorite rug by the fireplace, his body heavy, his breath shallow. He looked at his family gathered around him, their faces etched with concern, their eyes filled with love. He knew his time had come, the final chapter of his long and fulfilling life drawing to a close. He had lived a life of adventure, of loss and love, of resilience and compassion. He had touched the hearts of many, leaving an indelible mark on the world. He closed his eyes, his last breath a soft sigh, his heart filled with gratitude for the love he had received and the love he had given. He drifted peacefully into the eternal slumber, his spirit forever bound to the family he cherished. The Miller family mourned the loss of their beloved Buddy, their hearts heavy with grief, their memories filled with his unwavering loyalty, his gentle spirit, his unconditional love. They buried him in their backyard, under the shade of an old oak tree, his final resting place a testament to the enduring bond they shared. Buddy's story lived on, whispered in the rustling leaves of the oak tree, echoed in the laughter of children playing in the park, reflected in the kindness and compassion of those whose lives he had touched. He was the dog who had found his way back home, the dog who had embraced a new family, the dog who had taught them the true meaning of love and loyalty. He was Buddy, the dog who had lived a life well lived, a life that would forever be etched in their hearts.